Hey everybody, before I get started, I just want to mention a couple of ways that you can engage with me on a more personal level. I have a few avenues set up and I keep focusing on one, and I figured why don't I make a short little video talking about all of them real quick before we get into these episodes. So first thing, Patreon. There's a link in the episode description, in every episode description to the Patreon, as well as a video on the feed called Major Announcement that has all the details of what each tier offers and how much they cost. I implore you to check that out. I offer a lot of cool shit for my patrons. Second thing, the Discord channel. There's also a Discord link in the episode description and in every episode description. I have multiple channels set up there for each show that I'm covering, and it's a great way to just engage with me. I have a channel set up for MMA talk as well. I'm a big MMA fan, so if you're an MMA fan, you can check that out as well. There's a link to the Discord in the episode description. And then lastly, the Facebook and Twitter. Social media. Follow me on there. I post news on there. When I say news, I mean like, hey, I'm stopping covering this show. Hey, I'm starting covering this show. Let me know what you think about this. I do live watches of things on Facebook where like I'll check in and say I'm watching so-and-so show, and then I'll like live comment while I'm watching it, and that'll be cool if maybe you watch that show too and you want to watch along with me, or you're watching it later and you will see my thoughts, which are usually pretty entertaining because I'm usually pretty high when I'm writing them. So check out all those links in each episode description, and let's talk about this episode. Peace.
One mic, one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. One mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. One mic. One mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, and today I'm here to talk about Season 3, Episode 4 of Apple TV's Ted Lasso, entitled Big Week. And it was a big week. It was a big week for our Richmond guys. We had the big game versus West Ham. I'm really surprised this game came this early, and it really makes me wonder, and I'm very intrigued at what they have planned for 8 more episodes if we've already had a big game against West Ham and a confrontation with Nate. Super curious. So the team has suffered an embarrassing loss to West Ham very early in the season, in the television show's season. And it wasn't embarrassing solely because of the score being lopsided. I believe they said it was 4-1, but it was embarrassing because of the team's behavior in the second half. And I'm wondering what you guys think. I'm wondering myself what the fallout from this is going to look like. Like, is the media going to rip them apart for this? Is it going to come out why they did it? Is it just going to be like, here's the Richmond guys just all of a sudden decided to get dirty in the second half of this game? Like, I don't know, but I'm curious what the fallout's going to be here. The big story for obviously the big week is the game against West Ham. For the team, it's not just any old big game. Obviously, it's the game against Nate. But then for Rebecca, it's not about the game at all. It's about beating Rupert, which is sad, I think, to a degree. There's also a lot of unresolved business between Nate and Ted. Nate's had the game circled on his calendar, but Ted's kind of pretending like it's not that big of a deal, even though we know it is. He's kind of going around business as usual. But Ted's got a lot of other stuff going on too, right? He's really focused on Sassy only wanting to be friends with benefits with him because he's a mess. He asked a lot of people. I think he asked the coaches, he asked Rebecca throughout this episode if they think he's a mess. And I wanted to pose a question to you guys. Why do you think Ted cared so much about that characterization? Because it's not about the fact that Sassy doesn't want to be with him. It's not about the fact that she wants to be friends with benefits. Because, I mean, who wouldn't want to be friends with benefits with her, right? It's about the fact that she called him a mess. Why do you think that meant so much to him that he had to ask so many different people if they agreed? I spent some time thinking about it. And I think it's because a lot of Ted's self-worth is tied to being a father. Not to Richmond's success or his success as a coach or any of that stuff. That's what my success is tied to. Like, I can have any kind of success with this channel, any kind of success in my day job, but at the end of the day, how good of a husband am I? How good of a father am I? Am I treating other people with the respect that they've earned or deserve? Am I not being an asshole? Those sorts of things, you know? And he asked everyone, if Ted is a mess to, I'm sorry, I kind of got lost. I'm pulling myself back in here. If Ted is a mess to people who only know him as a coach, how can he be a father, right? I'm speaking as Ted, right? This is probably his perspective. So his ex is dating a therapist who by definition is likely not a mess. So if he's a mess, how can he get his family back? You know, should he be a father to someone if he's a mess? So, that's just my guess. Like, these are kind of the things that maybe thoughts that he's having. Like, hey, if they think I'm a mess, can I be a good father to my son? All of these things. Like, I think that's what it all revolves around, is how can he be there for Teddy? Probably how can he win his I'm sorry, I said Teddy, Henry. How can he win his wife back? I think even his brain knows that he probably shouldn't be pursuing his wife, but he loves her. And there's probably still like, if I get better as a person, maybe she'll want me again. And if everyone thinks he's a mess, that's not going to be the person that she's going to want to be with. She thinks he's a mess. That's probably why they're not together, and why he's in the UK coaching a soccer team instead of being a father to his kids. So that's just my guess. But I'm curious what you guys think as to why that was such a big deal for him to be characterized that way. A big deal to him. But speaking of Nate, I'm really ready to see some movement with his character. You see a bit of it in this episode with his regret over how he left Richmond and how he left Ted. This is the first little bit of the old Nate that we get to see. This kind of like, hey, maybe I was kind of shitty, but when I left. I love the scene after the game where he's being interviewed and the guy asked him about not shaking Ted's hand. And Nate kind of like snapped back into being regular Nate for a minute. It was like, and not the asshole version of Nate that coaches West Ham. He's like, wait, I didn't do that? Like, I didn't realize I didn't shake Ted's hand. And then he leaves the interview, like mid-interview, kind of like, shit. Like, that's an asshole move. And I wasn't trying to be an asshole in that moment. Like, he's clearly been hung up about how he left things with Ted. The elevator scene where how he was in the corner like that. I love that he was in the corner. But two, when Ted speaks to him and he turns around, he's like, oh, I didn't see you there. Like, of course you didn't see him there. You're looking at the fucking corner. But, he tried to kind of reconcile in that moment before Rupert showed up. And that showed that, I think even in the moment when Nate's kind of an asshole on the field, when the game starts, again, it seemed like he didn't want to be that way, but he's being that way because he thinks that that's what Rupert needs him to be. Well, he knows that's what Rupert wants him to be like. So I like that moment of kind of like Nate realizing like, that's not who I was trying to be in that moment. I got out of myself. I guess I wasn't paying attention. And he tried to remedy that. Now, obviously, he didn't actually make it happen because he hesitated. But I still like seeing him kind of like come back to himself. Kind of like, oh, wait, that's not who I'm trying to be. So like I said, he goes off looking for Ted. Delays too long. I like seeing the regret. I really missed season 1 Nate. So getting a break, albeit a brief one, from Asshole Nate was kind of nice. But Asshole Nate was still ever present. And that's why I said I'd like to see some movement on the character. We get more examples of Nate needing the approval of others in this episode. He tries to flex on the waitress when he's going to pick up the food. Hostess. Yeah, no, not waitress, hostess. And I wonder too, and let me know I want to know what you guys think about this too. I want to know what you guys think about why Ted asked everyone about being about being a mess. But I want to ask you this too. Do you think that the hostess actually didn't remember Nate, or do you think she did, as she was not trying to give him that? Like she didn't want to give him the satisfaction of the recognition, so she pretended like she didn't recognize him, but she actually did. That's kind of the vibe that I got. But let me know what you guys thought. But like I said, the show's been really hammering home Nate's need for approval and how that ties into, how his father treated him. And I don't really need more examples of that. I got it. I'm ready for the show to start working on him to becoming a good person again. Lastly, the episode ends with Ted saying his piece to his ex. This was a great scene. This had to be incredibly difficult for him. And he says what you need to say, and she was receptive to a degree that borders on implausible. Like, she didn't say anything, and then he finished, and she was like, okay, like, I will do that. And I just feel like no one's ever going to be that receptive to that in real life. But, I loved when he said, I love our family no matter what it looks like. Part of me feels like that's a corny fucking line, but there's also a part of me that respects the positivity and the heart necessary to feel that way. And I think part of what makes this show so beloved is that it's something that's like sweet, overly sweet at times, but it's sweet in a world that's so full of hate and division right now. And Ted's just a good, well-meaning person, and it feels like there's just so few people like that right now. And it just makes you feel bad that like someone like that who's so good at their core is having such a rough go of it. Like, he's just too good to be in this situation. It sucks. It makes you feel bad for Ted, but I'm sure he's gonna come out of it fine. But yeah, I mean, entertaining episode. I continue to be interested in the things that they're setting up. I also think that we're now probably about a third of the way through the season, so now setup needs to stop, and now we need to move into like the build up toward the inevitable conflict, and then the climax later, and probably the final 4 episodes. But I do want to close out with a few thoughts. I love the scene of Beard and Roy overthinking the strategy of the game because of Nate knowing what they'll do. Like, oh, Nate knows we're gonna do that, so we got to do this. And then I love how ultimately where Beard lands relies on Zava being passive. Like, okay, well, you finally put all this work into coming up with a plan that your star player is not gonna agree to do. Congratulations, congratulations, Coach Beard. Colin makes I'm gonna say a gay joke. It's a joke about being gay, not a joke about gay people. But he made a gay joke, and Trent kind of like perked up in his seat. And I'm really curious what Trent is gonna do with this information. I know I said it in the other video. I remain curious here. I'm really not just curious what Trent is going to do, but I'm really just curious too if Trent knows it's a secret, and two, whether he does or not, what is he going to do with that? And what's the fallout from that going to be? But I think it's really important whether or not Trent knows it's a secret. Because if Trent assumes that they all know, which based on this scene that happened, the one where he kind of perked up, I think that Trent must know that they don't know. But if he didn't know that and then just said it casually and they're like, what the fuck? I feel like that'd be way more interesting. The all blue, this is the first time I've talked about this on the show. That all blue fit that Zava arrived at the West Ham game in, that shit was nice. I normally don't like the Richmond kit with the fucking, the blue shirt with the orange, like the one that says banter on it, the one they normally wear. I don't really like that, but what they had on with like, I think it was, I don't know if it was like a, kind of like a, I wasn't paying close enough attention to see if it was kind of like something you would wear over, the clothes that you would play in. But if it was like track pants and a jacket or something, but all I know is like it was all blue, just different shades of like navy or some shit. That shit was nice. Like I would rock the fuck out of that. That was nice. Was it me or did the game scenes look really bad this week? I don't normally watch the show on my TV. Normally I'm in my office watching it on my computer monitor, so maybe it looks better than it normally looks. But I feel like I've watched it on the same TV that I watched this episode on. I've watched plenty of episodes on this. And I thought the game scenes, not the game itself, the scenes where the coaches were standing on the sideline, it looked like bad SNL green screen. Like, that shit looked bad to me. Like, I don't know if it always looks like that, and I'm just now noticing it, but it looked bad. Like, I don't know. Speaking of having enough examples of Nate needing his ego stroked, I don't need any more examples of how Rupert needs his dick stroked either. Like, Rupert's a bad guy. I get it. You don't have to dress him in black all the time and the whole Darth Vader fucking vibe they're going here. He cheats on his current woman with a younger model. I get it. We've seen umpteen examples at this point. I get it. Rupert's a piece of shit. I don't need any more examples. Let's get some movement going here with Rupert. Rupert hasn't had a good moment since the dart scene from season 1. That's how long it's been since Rupert's had a good moment. All the rest of Rupert's shit has been the same shit over and over and over and over and over again. Him taunting Rebecca about how he gets young pussy. Congratulations, rich white man. You get young pussy. Okay. Guess you're a unique one. I don't need any more examples of that. Pass. Let's move the Rupert character along. I still think the stuff with Keely and Shandy's not working. I don't know about you guys. I'm just not finding it interesting. If they're trying to tell me, there's not really an if, but they're trying to show us that Keely has kind of become like that bitch, you know what I'm saying? And Shandy is kind of like season 1 Keely, even though I think that's disrespectful to season 1 Keely. But they're still kind of what they're giving me is that Keely's essentially dealing with a green version of herself. I get it, but I'm not interested in Keely's business. I'm not interested in this whole thing with the Jack lady and the tampon. And like they showed the shoes, and I'm like, okay, she's gonna be important later, and it ends up being the Jack. I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in a Keely, Shandy, and Jamie thruple unless it's on Pornhub. Other than that, I don't need it. Not interested in Keely and Shandy. I hope they could find a way to make the Keely stuff feel more like part of the show that I'm used to watching. Keely stuff feels different to me for some reason, and I'm not a big fan of it. So, only complaints. Give me something different with Rupert. I don't even need to see Rupert, honestly. Rupert could be a two to three times a season cameo. I don't need to see any more Rupert. If you're gonna give me Rupert, give me something that's a little bit more evolved. And Keely and Shandy, not a fan. Otherwise, though, really looking forward to everything they're doing. The show continues to be funny as fuck. Really loving Zava. Really loving the mysteries with Rebecca, which, like I said in the previous one, I said, like, we're probably not even going to see anything with that next week. Sure as shit, we didn't see anything with that in this episode, but I love the stuff with Ted and his ex. I love the stuff with Nate and the team and the game, all that good stuff. So I'm liking what they're setting up. Looking forward to the final 2/3 of the season. Let me know what you guys thought about the questions that I posed, and I'll see you guys next week on time for episode 5, right? Yes, 5. And until then, peace.